Bristol, because they're sort of a player in this. The biggest sports media story of the past week was the announcement FS1 and Barstool and Fox Sports and FS1 and Barstool teaming up. Let me start with this. I said this on Twitter, if people follow me there. I'm way more intrigued by the daily FS1 part of this than the pregame show part of this. Because in NFL, a college football pregame show, there's only so much that can be done. There's only so much of a reinvention of the wheel. It sounds like Portnoy is going to go on there and play up Big Ten and Michigan versus Ohio State. Okay. But I'm intrigued to see if the daily 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern show can provide any sort of competition to ESPN. Your take on that?
Well, I think it's first interesting to say that living in LA, as I do, I go over to Pico Boulevard and Fox headquarters as much as I go anywhere just because it's local. And over the years, I have barely heard an executive or on-air person or anybody over there mention FS1. I mean, the energy always seems to be about Big Fox. It's about Super Bowls. It's about college football. It's about the World Series. They love Colin Cowherd. They love Nick Wright. But just in terms of the intrigues and the daily lineups, for all the stories we get about FS1, for all the awful announcing things we see about FS1, it to me has always been a much smaller part of Fox Sports's pie than I think people from the outside might understand. So when I saw this, I'm like, oh, well, this is at least them paying attention to FS1. This is them trying to do something interesting here. I mean, let's be honest. Could you name the cast of The Facility before that show was canceled?
No. It's funny you say that because I'm in total agreement there, which that's what made my frustration about the fact that FS1 would air the NLCS or ALCS. It's such, listen, whether it's reality or perception, my perception has always been is that FS1 is low rent. And then baseball's biggest series is on there. And it just made baseball look bad. That was always how I thought of it. Maybe low rent is a little harsh, but like you said, I can tell you this. I write a column every single day. I don't think I've ever written about one person on any FS1 daytime show because, they are what they are. I know people will say, oh, what's the difference between that and Stephen A? Okay, but First Take will have on Brian Windhorst and reporters, I don't know what those FS1 shows were supposed to be. And I actually think FS1 in that case needs Barstool more than Barstool needs FS1.
Well, I think you really make a good argument for that. Absolutely. And, it feels like what they're doing is channeling podcasters in the same way that ESPN did with McAfee, and really that the whole media is right now, coming off the election like we did. What do we hear over and over again, whether you're a political person or not? The energy is in podcasting. The energy is in these people that have captured an audience. And yes, sometimes they will say things that make everybody mad, that make media columns for people like you and me. But that's where the energy is. What you do is you put them on TV and you hope that some of their audience comes over with you. Now, that brings us to the second question here, which is any stoolie going to buy a cable subscription to see their guys on FS1? Remember, FS1 was on, Barstool was on Sirius for quite a while. How many people do you think bought a subscription to satellite radio to hear the programming there? So you do have a bridge, I think, that needs to be crossed between podcast world and, in this case, linear television.
It's funny you say that. And McAfee was on Sirius as well, which a lot of people forget. Yep. I did a mailbag column for SI.com on Wednesday, and a question came in. Do you think, Barstool can help FS1 put a dent into ESPN in terms of the daily show? And my thought on that is simply, you have to sort of get out of that thinking in 2025, because that show is going to be about clips, social media, YouTube. It's not going to be people putting on channel whatever 583 on Verizon Fios at 8 a.m. in the morning. To me, it's similar to late night, which is ironic because we can get into sort of Colbert later, but late night and that time slot in the morning for sports, it's the same situation. Very few people are home in their houses, sitting on their couches, watching those shows live. It's all about the clips. So I wouldn't look at it as, can they put a dent into ESPN in terms of ratings? I mean, maybe they can. And, I think like they'll have higher ratings maybe than that was whatever there before they come into that time slot. But it's not just a TV play. People have to understand that.
Yeah. And for FS1, the first goal is just to get into the clips. The first goal is to become part of the conversation on social media, because as we said, it's not. I do want to direct you to the college football part of this too, because I know this is off people's radars a little bit, but Big Noon Kickoff is a really interesting show because College Game Day is the granddaddy of them all, is the cash machine of cash machines. And they've been able to make some inroads there, talking about Fox, right?
Yep.
They have a noon game every week that is their game of the week. We'll see this on August 30th. The big game and one of the biggest college football games of the year is Texas versus Ohio State. Both pregame shows, ESPN and Fox, will be there, but Fox has a little bit of an advantage because it is actually airing the game at noon Eastern time. So they've been able to do this. Now, what do they try to do here? Well, they've got a McAfee type character or characters in Dave Portnoy and Big Cat that they're going to put on there. And to me, there's a question of, again, how much Barstool energy transfers over there. Are you going to have more rabid people behind the set if you have Portnoy and Big Cat on there? I have no doubt that's the case. Does it change the ratings all that much? I don't know.
Right.
But I do think there's an interesting question going forward with McAfee and ESPN, because that could end at any time. Like, would you be surprised if that relationship just stops at, a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months, right? We could envision anything.
Yeah.
And McAfee really is a key to game day. Like, I think he is, especially as Lee Corso goes away, he is the guy who's stirring up the crowd, who has that great relationship with Nick Saban on the set. He is part of that must watch. So I just think when you think larger about college pregame shows and the little bit of vulnerability maybe that game day has right now going forward, or at least hypothetical vulnerability, that to me makes this story interesting too.
Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get those draft boards ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, overreactions, and more. It's all happening with Yahoo Fantasy. This year, the SI Media podcast is playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is great. The best part of any fantasy league is always the draft. Because of Yahoo's simplicity, it maximizes the fun you can have at the draft. It maximizes everything you can do in terms of the draft, picking your players. Draft day is one of the best days of the year, and Yahoo Fantasy only makes it much, much better. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League today at yahoofantasy.com/SI Media. That's yahoofantasy.com/SI Media. I know for me, again, and I always say this when I talk college football, I'm coming at this as a New Yorker. So my take on college football is going to be way different than people like you who are in hotbeds there with the teams you love and Big Ten, SEC, and all that. My Saturday is I want to watch Lee Corso give his pick and put on the head and do that bit. Like, that's what I care about. Now that's going away. I think a big factor in this is age, because people like you and me, we know what game day is. We know what the history is. Whereas Barstool, Portnoy, Big Cat coming into FS, Big Noon Kickoff, clearly a much younger audience will go to that than game day. I mean, I don't know if someone who's 18 to 25 understands sort of or cares about the history of game day. So again, a situation where I think Fox needs Barstool more than Barstool needs Fox. Yes, listen, if Dave Portnoy and Dan Katz can get on national television during a pregame show before an Ohio State Texas game, yes, that helps them. But overall, this should do nothing but help Fox, I would guess.
Oh yeah, and I don't want to overstate the game day thing either because they do have a lot of assets at ESPN.
Yeah.
Herbie, McAfee, Saban. They have the best college football inventory, and it's not really even close to anybody else, including the college football playoff in the final. So, like, I don't want to overstate that, but I think when you think about pregame shows, part of what you think about is why am I watching? Why am I going to watch to see if something happens? What's the clip I'm going to look at?
Right.
And, conventional college football analysis, as great as it may be, is probably not going to get you over that finish line all the time. So you just think of things that are unpredictable. Look, that's the formula of game day. That's Corso, that's McAfee, and this is Fox trying to capture their own version of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, I could even see it being as simple as, because this is how the TV business works. I mean, I could see it as being as simple as Fox saw every week last year how the McAfee field goal kick thing became a thing. It went viral most weeks. People were tuning in. It was getting a lot of buzz on social media. And there's a Fox executive sitting there saying, where are we on this? And boom, here's Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just something simple like that. I mean, that doesn't sound like the most intricate idea in the world. We're gonna have some co-ed kick a field goal, and I'm gonna pay them if they hit it. But it worked. It was an awesome segment.
Yeah, and it became something people wanted to watch every Saturday. If you're Fox too, don't overthink it. Like, have Portnoy do a pizza review every week from whatever city they're in, and cater to that Barstool crowd. I hopefully Fox. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully. It doesn't matter to me, but if I was Fox, I'd be very careful about not. I would follow the Barstool way and not do it the Fox way with those guys.
You said, what's the Fox way in this sense?
I don't know. I don't know what the Fox way is because I don't like Big Noon Kickoff doesn't really generate any sort of buzz.
Yeah, I think Fox thinks of itself though as not that different than what you're talking about, right? They think of themselves going back to Terry and Howie and Jimmy, in the old days of the NFL pregame as the place where you're going to see wacky things, right? Where anything can happen. Now, the media world has changed a lot since 1994, but I think they think of themselves as that way. Now, of course, there's going to be, when I say like the stuff people you and I write about, there are lots of downsides of bringing Barstool into the tent as well, right? Yeah. You're going to have to own things that they do that are not on your air, and perhaps even stuff that they do on your air. And do you just ride that out? Do you issue an apology every time? This is part of what ESPN's dealing with McAfee. And that can be everything from a headache to, as we've seen with McAfee, a full-blown crisis. So that's something Fox executives have obviously thought about, but they're going to have to navigate week to week too.
See, I don't think Fox executives care. I actually think they would embrace anything that would cause controversy or be considered offensive to some people, not others. Whereas I think ESPN cares way more than Fox about that. I think Fox, they've made it clear, like, they don't care.
Maybe. I don't know. I also think you would think that based on the reputation, perhaps, of the two entities.
Yeah.
But again, just talking to Fox people, again, tends to be a very, very stable place. A place that does not like to have giant intramural blowups. I mean, when we saw this when Joe and Troy left, it was very shocking to people over there because nobody leaves, right? Like there's a lot. Terry and Howie are still there. There's just a lot of consistency to Fox. So I think that could probably go either way.
You touched on it. I do think if you're hardcore media people like us, there is an interesting sort of spinoff with the story is sort of the turnaround of Barstool. I mean, there was a time where a network wouldn't think of getting in bed with them.
Or they would think of it and cancel the show after one episode.
Well, that to me was an ESP. Like, why would you bring them on and cancel them after one show? Like, to me, that was an ESPN issue more than that was not a Barstool issue. But the Barstool controversies, I know they had a big one with because McAfee was involved too.
Yes,
The student who
student
something, I
at
don't know,
Ole
slept with
Miss.
the father or some nonsense or
Yes,
something like that. But
the
like,
student at Ole Miss.
yeah, but overall, their controversies have plummeted compared to where they used to be. I mean, they've I'm not going to sit here and say they've gone mainstream, but it does seem like in the last few years they've avoided really major problems that they used to have fairly often.
I see. I don't know if I agree with that or
Okay.
if the world has just changed and the way we perceive these things has changed.
Well, here's what I think helps Barstool more than anything in terms of that. You might like it, you might not like it, you might feel one way about it. Every single athlete loves it, which gives them a huge, huge advantage. And a lot of media people love it. Now, I also think it's, maybe it's not the right way to sort of frame it to talk about Barstool as a whole. But like, if you just look at Pardon My Take, for instance, they get better guests than any show that exists in any form of media in sports anywhere. Athletes want to be on that show. Saying I know, I mean, look at, you have Spit and Chicklets, you have Biz Nasty doing their podcast. He's on TNT. They had, I think that the outside of the sports world may still have that, get triggered when they hear the word Barstool, but inside the sports world, I don't think it's like that.
I think the argument's been won in a lot of ways. What you're talking about, guests, mainstream guests coming on the show, people lining up wanting to get on those shows, especially Pardon My Take.
Yeah.
I do think also that we've come into an era where things are graded differently, at least by certain people. Because in old media world where you and I come out from, we're looking at ESPN's air, we're looking at ESPN.com, we're looking at newspapers, and we're saying, oh, you stepped over the line here. This is unacceptable. Let's do this. So a lot of people that process this and say, hey, I like podcasts, and the hosts are going to step through a trap door a couple of times a day, and I'm just going to roll with that, and that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
So I think it just sort of, in a way, it depends on how you look at the world.
Yeah. It is interesting too how it was framed in so many places as like this is going to be now McAfee versus Portnoy.
They used to work together.
Yeah. I don't know. I think McAfee's, I do think Fox wanted some sort of McAfee-like person, but I don't know. Maybe I'm more lenient, but like, I don't think McAfee's been like so wild on game day. Like what, maybe he cursed once. I mean, he's not doing anything that outlandish. He's just exuberant, loud, has fun, stands on the desk.
Yeah, he's doing in a lot of ways a version of what Lee Corso did for 20 plus years. I mean, Pat's told me that in a way. Like his job is to goose the crowd, right? Is to keep people into it. OHIO. Like that, that's the gig. And when when you're doing a live television show, not just a television show, but a live show in front of I want to say studio audience, but an audience out there on the quad, like that's a gift, right? Like that's part of game day's magic is that atmosphere there. So what Pat is doing, jumping up and down and doing that thing and doing the fight songs and all that kind of stuff, but it's a gift and it's a big thing.
You have any kind of prediction on how this plays out, the big noon kickoff versus game day?
I really don't. I mean, there's a whole rating story there that I will let the numbers come in before I make predictions about that. But I think we've sketched it out. I mean, to me, it's Fox saying, what's the element we can add to this show that makes it something that people will have to pay attention to, whether they love it, whether they get mad and get pissed off, but it's something they will have to pay attention to week after week.
Yeah. And also, I don't, from the releases, again, like we're talking about this, but we still don't know like what exactly is going to be the role of Portnoy and like how long he's, maybe he's on there for 5 or 10 minutes and then over a 2-hour pregame show. That's not going to, again, I think all of those Barstool clips will do numbers on social without a doubt. But in terms of like a TV rating, if someone flips it on and it's Brady Quinn and Urban Meyer,